Hi, welcome to the Noisy Golfer. This is episode 4 of the Noisy Golf podcast, brought to you by Noisy Golf. We are absolutely delighted to have with us a very, very special guest today, somebody that we've recently got to know through the Tommy Fleetwood Tour, and that's Norman Marshall, who is in charge of the Tommy Fleetwood Academy at Formby Hall, and also Tommy Fleetwood himself is his first junior coach. How are you doing, Norman? You okay?
I'm doing great. Thanks for that intro. I like the sound of
it. Well, we have to big you up. And as I say, we've got to know you recently through the Tommy Fleetwood Tour, through obviously Isaac playing the first 2 events. And he's obviously looking forward to the 3rd event coming up. Really what we wanted to talk about was a number of things, really, you know, considering your background, who you've been coaching, how the academy came about. But I think more importantly, really what we wanted to sort of start off with was your sort of journey into golf and you know how it all began, and then really to sort of, you know, talk in a little bit more detail about, you know, the Tommy Fleetwood Academy and the tour and Tommy Fleetwood himself as well.
Oh, well, I'm really glad you asked me, because I actually drove home tonight and had to go slightly out of my way, the long way around, to drive past where my golf journey began, which was at Southport Municipal. Yeah, so it resonates very, very deeply with me. But my golf journey began. My dad was from Southport and my mum was from Scotland, and they met in the RAF. So I was born in Dundee. Okay. And my dad started to play golf there, but Dundee was quite a tough, gritty city. And my dad thought my life prospects would be better back in Southport. And we come from a very humble background. And he actually sold his clubs to afford to be able to move back down. Oh, wow. So by the time I was 10, just 11, he'd got back on his feet and he decided to start golf again. And that was the start of my journey into golf. He started golf and I said to him, can I come and play golf? I think it was a bit of, he worked at British Leyland, something that the lads did together. And he brought a set of clubs home for me in a brown vinyl bag. There's about 3 clubs in. They were well battered. I still remember them, Chichi Rodriguez. And that was my start into golf. But my dad did say to me, set the bar high. He said, you need to be able to hit the ball 100 yards before you can come on the course. So that was my very first start into golf. I was like football mad, but this golf just, it grabbed me instantly. Well, that week of thrashing balls, trying to get a ball to go 100 yards, you know, sheer exhaustion, hands covered in blisters, and almost in exhaustion and exasperation, I gently hit one. I connected just right, and I thought, I've been trying too hard for a week, and the ball took off. And my dad took me to a football field for the official measure off in Southport now, where the hospital's been built. He paced out 100 yards, and I teed up the ball and I hit it, and it went over his head. And I don't know if he was astonished or slightly disappointed, but that was it. He never got to play golf. He never got to play golf with his mates again. It was me along all the way.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, what a great memory.
I know, it's amazing though. Like, one of the earliest blogs that we had when we launched Noisy Golf was that first feeling that you get. Like my dad came from home from a factory here that was interested in golf when I was 10, and he came back with this second-hand set. It was a thick, proper heavy black Dunlop bag, and it had a 7-iron in it, a 3-iron, a 4, like proper timber woods as well. It had a 4-wood with the plate missing, the metal plate missing at the bottom, and there was a driver with loads of tape around the shaft and the neck at the club. And I remember it like it was yesterday. The smell, the feeling of the grip, it instantly takes you back, that first experience. And it sort of makes you wonder now, you know, with the equipment that's available to kids, you know, their experience is obviously quite different when you consider the equipment's available compared to, you know, decades gone by, so to speak.
100%, and I think probably there is something missing in the development of the kids with that. I I was just like you, you know, getting my mum's Mr. Sheen and polishing this mercilessly battered. My wood was plastic. It was a plastic wood made to look like wood, but I kept polishing it, but I couldn't polish the dints out of it. But just with those 3 or 4 clubs, just like you, I had to make them do everything. You really like a Stevie. He learned with one club, didn't he? So
that's right. Yeah.
some creativity is born out of that. So yeah, but kids do roll up now with lots of gear. I mean, it would be a bit mean on the kids of today to say they all come with a full set. They don't, but they get into it, the kids set. If they're into it, real good golf equipment is readily available.
No, brilliant. It's certainly a lot more accessible, definitely. I know that, I mean, I think that the whole industry's changed, but I think it seems a lot more empowering now for juniors to have choice, perhaps in, as I say, whereas not so recently, they didn't tend to really. So all good in that respect. I think one of the things that we wanted to learn more about was how sort of your entry into coaching as well, and the birth of the Tommy Fleetwood Academy as well, because again, having been there and taken Isaac to the Tommy Fleetwood Tour events, there's an abundance of talent, but it'd be great to learn a little bit about the story and how it all developed as well.
Oh yeah, well, it's a long story, but I'll try to cut some highlights. Well, I was determined that I'd make it as a tour player, and I was absolutely determined, and I trained at Royal Birkdale. I was a 1 handicap golfer at the age of 16, and I was going great. I really didn't think there was anybody my age quite as good as me. In my sphere of experience, I hadn't met them. Obviously, there were, but not around me. There was maybe one other lad. And I went to Royal Birkdale to train. It wouldn't happen now, but the middle assistant had just lost his tour card, so I got to play with a recent tour player, and I didn't beat him for 18 months. So that was great training for me. Yeah. And I went abroad to play golf, and I began to coach, and I played one time with a guy who was like the number 2 player in Germany on a really difficult course. I shot 70-70, which I think was 4 under par, and he shot 64-64. So I thought, wow, I'm 12 shots behind after 2 rounds. If this keeps going, I'm going to be 24 shots behind somebody nobody's ever heard of. Yeah. And that's when I moved more into coaching. Okay. And then I come back to Southport, and I built a golf business, a golf range with a par 3 course. I actually developed the par 3 course because in continental Europe, when you join a club, you can't play until you've got a license to show that you're competent. Okay. And in Austria, it's called a Platzreife. Yeah. Or some countries call it a green card. And what I found was some short academy courses where people could go learn golf, and they could actually get the Platzreife and then join a club. Yeah. The normal way was you paid a fee to join the club, but you still couldn't play till you'd pass this test. And I came back and built a version of that in Southport. And that's where I first met Tommy. 6-year-old Tommy Fleetwood walked through the door quite late one night, and I just went out to pick the baskets up. Got in my way really because I was hoping to lock up early. And I just saw this kid hitting the balls, and I got speaking to his dad. I said, wow, he's good. And that's how I met Tommy, yeah, 24 odd years ago now. So I suppose that was the birth of my relationship with Tommy, and the very first seeds of was getting the Tommy Fleetwood Academy off the ground.
Fantastic. And what was the first thing that you noticed about Tommy at that age? Because obviously there's a lot of, you see a lot of kids being able to hit a ball, but I think there's one thing being able to hit a ball, and there's obviously a commitment towards proper practice and the behavior and the mannerisms. Was there anything in particular that stood out with Tommy at such a young age?
Well, there was, and there wasn't. And I have this conversation with Tommy quite a lot. I suppose people want me to say, yeah, I looked at him, I thought he could be a world-class golfer. But actually, what I saw was a kid who could strike the ball. It was the connection on the ball, which was unusual, and I definitely hadn't seen it before.
Yeah.
But I was only in my mid-20s then, or early to mid-20s. And I wasn't that experienced with junior golf. So I thought, yeah, he's really good. He can strike the balls great. So I suppose the ball striking was unusual. But when Tommy comes to watch the boys, and like your son, Isaac, and he watches them hit the balls, and I often say to the kids, you know, you could make it as a golf pro. And Tommy says next to me, any of them could. What it is that divides the kids, I would say, is a far less of skill and outstanding talent.
Yeah.
And it's much more internal qualities. It's character, it's determination, and it's drive. And that is how I know who's likely to make it. Some of the kids I have in my moving to my elite groups are actually quite new golfers, but are just detecting them the drive. And work ethic's probably a slightly negative thing to say about a kid, but you know, that we want the child to have a work ethic, but it's the enthusiasm. You know, they love the PlayStation and they love the Xbox because it's captured their attention. So in a sense, all they're playing on that, there's a work ethic for that, but something's fired them up to do it. And that's what I'm seeking to find in my golf coaching, just firing up the enthusiasm for golf. And that's what I saw in Tommy, just a love of it.
Yeah, I think what was really interesting was at the closing ceremony or the presentation rather of the first event, where you referred to, and I didn't know this obviously because it was the first time that we'd met, that when it came to creating the academy, you mentioned that Tommy had set it up because he particularly enjoyed the sort of the games and the way that you set it up with him when it was such a young age to keep it fun. What could you elaborate on exactly what those things were, and how important is it to young golfers that we sort of gamify the learning experience to keep it interesting for them?
Keep it fun, yeah.
Well, I think like you've hit on the point and the whole nub of what I do. I taught golf in Sweden on one of my seasons, and I noticed how well children were looked after there. And how well children who show a talent for something are encouraged and embraced, and they're given all the help that they need. So for Sweden, with a population of 7 or 8 million, if you think of the great golfers and tennis players it's produced, I just thought they're doing something different. So they are nurtured. It was actually a beautiful place to live, and the people were gentle and very, very polite. I like lots of things about it. So when I came back to Southport and I built my own academy, the one where I met Tommy, it was those ideas that started to introduce making a game out of the various skills that you need in golf. Golf is just a series of games that are interconnected. Yeah. So that's what we do. But I suppose like one of the things that I wish I'd known as a kid, and I think like one of the things that really helped me, my dad was an only child and I was, and my dad had a great imagination and he could make games and stuff out of things, and he did that with me. So I've carried that on. But what I've noticed with very young children, this is what I'd say to any of the parents watching who are thinking, I'd like to get my kids into golf, you know, what should I do? Well, what you need to do is get some sort of imaginative target in the garden, get some airflow balls, give them a plastic club. It could be a football net, and say hit the balls into the net. Kids love an imaginative target. When I think back to my start at golf, I hit my balls in the field. You know, that's what I did. There was no target. If I'd seen a golf flag with a bit of tufty grass sticking out the bottom, I'd have thought that was absolutely magic. Yeah. So I've taken that target making to the highest level, so the highest level I can. So we have Minecraft targets. Okay, that might have took a dip in popularity. Now we have Fortnite targets, all sorts of targets. We even had a target of me, and all the heads are detachable. So if you say to a kid, there's a stormtrooper there, or Kylo Ren, knock his head off, you've instantly got a child who becomes engrossed with hitting balls at that target. You've got something to work with. Yeah. If you say to a child, right, put your left hand on, put your right hand on, see 2 knuckles on the left hand,
Yeah.
The way I was originally taught to teach, you're looking at a sea of blank faces. So I like to fire up the kids' imagination, think, what would I like to have done as a boy? Girls like it too. We're experimenting with some more girl-friendly targets. I'd like to have shot at something. And that's how I get them going. So we get them firing lots of balls. Once we get them firing lots of balls and trying to hit the targets, we're straight away into controlling where the balls go, the face of the club, the learning technique, without realizing that they're playing a game. And if the games are well enough thought through, a lot of skill acquisition takes place in the playing of the game. That's the basis of it. But you can ask me anything about the games and things like that. I wonder what kind of games he plays. I take them up and up and up in levels of sophistication, up to stroke gained type putting games. You know, I'm always searching. I'm always willing to share my game ideas. And it's the heart and soul of it for me.
Brilliant.
The child inside of me as well.
Yeah.
I think what struck me there, my background is early years, and I think what you've really brought through is that children learn through play ultimately. And that's something that is put through the early years systems over and over again. Children will learn through play, create those activities, and you know, they learn without knowing that they're learning. And it's lovely to hear that the way that you're teaching is through those play ideas. And I think the other thing that really struck me was you must be keeping yourself young, knowing what the latest craze is with all these Fortnites and things like that, because I can't keep up. And you're mentioning these things, and I'm like, yeah, I've heard that. What does that mean? Isaac's mentioned that. So yeah, I mean, good for you, keeping up with it all.
Well, that was a gift from my dad. His childish interests, you know, they remained with him throughout his life, which was sailing, fishing, shooting, and later golf. And he passed them all on to me, and I've done to my kids. But I ask the kids often, what would you like to have as a target? And I incentivize them. So I'll give them a prize if they come up with they'll come up with a game idea that we actually put into operation. And some of them really surprise me. You know, they just think outside of the box, and some of the games that they come up with are brilliant. So I'm always listening to them. We're stuck on Fortnite at the moment. I'm not a massive fan of Fortnite, but I've got to go. I've got to go with the kids. No.
Yeah, it's number one cause of the arguments in this house, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. Our son, you know, the quiet child, he metamorphosized into, you know, shouting and screaming, and I don't think they're 100% the way to go. But you've got the peer pressure, let them have a go at it, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I would say those types of games, exactly what you say, learning through play, where you've got your thumbs pressing several different buttons. Nobody buys a book on how to grip your Xbox controller. And if you did write one, it'd be a very poor seller. But because the game is so compelling, the children are free to experiment, and they actually intuitively find out how to work the controls. So it's exactly like you say, learn through play. The children can work several different buttons. They're not even watching what the hands are doing. And I try to make golf that exciting, that I can just nudge them in the right direction technique-wise.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned the Stormtrooper as well, because when Isaac was hitting some balls before the tournament yesterday, he noticed they decapitated Stormtrooper to the back of the bay, and it was the first thing he noticed when he walked in. So whatever you're doing, it sounds like it's working, because it took its head clean off.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was you get a sticker for that shot.
Brilliant. I think one of the things that we wanted to talk about as well is that there's obviously a lot of very, very talented players that are coming out to the academy so far. And I think somebody that we wanted to mention as well is somebody that we've seen. I've been extremely impressed when I've seen her on the couple of times is Scout Wilson Bonner. Obviously a world champion, winning at the Champion of Champions Invitational in Ireland last week. What can you tell us about Scout that, you know, those out there that haven't heard of her, and how does her future look in terms of her golfing aspirations?
Well, I think her future looks very bright, but just to go back a second, and I'll move back on to Scout. yeah, we have these games and targets. It's all fun and games, but people, as soon as kids get engaged with golf, we make the games much more golfy. And I've got loads of really, really good games, which squeeze more and more golf technique into it. Yeah. But I would say, moving on to I just wouldn't want people to think, I do hear about golf coaches gamifying golf, and it's a game from start to finish, but we do elevate it to golf specific challenges. But Scout, I would say the unusual thing about Scout and the unusual thing about any champion is the drive, and I said this to the kids, you might have heard me say it at one or two of the presentations you've been to. If Tommy only liked golf when he was winning at the highest level, he'd have liked it 6 times. That's in thousands and thousands and thousands. So you've got to learn to enjoy the process. And I'd say for mums and dads, that's what you need to push the kids towards, enjoying what they're doing. They're out in the fresh air, they're playing a game, and they're having fun. They're not under any pressure. If you tried to make your child become a concert pianist and they didn't like the piano, you've got no chance. So it's just nudging them in the right direction. But with Scout, she loves to practice. She's extremely determined, and she wants to win. Her dad has played a bit of golf, and he's quite technically minded. He's an engineer. So we have a relationship where he sends me lots of WhatsApps and things, and I answer them, and I use him as a co-coach. So we sort of work together as a team on that one. Yeah. Some golf coaches might think, well, he's strayed out of his remit there. I'll be the coach and you be the dad. I think there's a lot of merit in that. Yeah. But when you've got a dad who is quite knowledgeable and they've got a good working relationship with the coach, at the end of the day, the dad, in your case with Isaac, you're going to spend an awful lot more time with him than me. Yeah. So it's empowering for you to grasp in its entirety what the coach is wanting Isaac to work on or fine tune, and you can really help him. So those relationships work well, and that's what Scout's got. But I'd say, like, in general, Scout's extremely determined, and she's hit tens of thousands of balls. Well, that's unusual. Most kids want to play games that their other mates are playing, whatever it is, Xbox, PlayStation, or anything. There's nothing wrong with that. That's normal. Yeah. Champions are slightly out of the norm, but we're giving them a chance to see if they want to step into that arena. Yeah. And it's really, really nice to see Scout actually getting something back for those hundreds and hundreds of hours of practice she's put in.
Yeah. It's great that obviously you've got that relationship with her dad as well, and obviously she's got that relationship with her dad. A couple of previous podcasts that we've done, we've touched on the importance of the positive parenting side, not putting that pressure on the child, letting the coach as well. So it isn't about being there and putting that pressure on and saying you've got to do this and you've got to do that. It's about letting the child grow and develop, and obviously keeping that natural drive and that natural interest. And like you said all along with the games and things, keeping it fun, keeping them engaged in a very fun way. It's nice to hear that, obviously you've got that relationship with Scout and Scout's dad, and I'm sure with many other parents that you've been working with as well. So
I think I think one of the main things that we're learning, and I think I still find as a challenge, is it was Isaac's 4th tournament he's played in yesterday, and I think that what I notice is that every child is different. I'm trying to be the best positive role model for my son, and I think that there's very unique behaviours within every single child. So so there isn't a rule book, essentially, is that it's working. Every child's got their own learning method. They all see things the different way. And I think that what I'm learning is that instead of trying to keep things fairly generic, is just to enjoy that process of him getting better. And I think that one thing I've seen, my background snooker, is I've seen very talented people get overcoached that have shown a lot of talent very early on, because their dads wanted them to be
100%.
so their dads wanted them to be the next Stephen Hendry. They've changed their cue action. They've re-drilled them. Whereas I think there's an element of, that sort of rawness and natural ability sort of needs to be blended and refined with ultimately the fundamentals of the golf swing, I suppose.
You're 100% right. That's like one of my pet themes. You can only be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And I often say it to the kids. If I lost weight, stretched myself, grew my hair long like Tommy, and I did play in the Open qualifiers. I never got there, but I got close. Let's say if I did next year make it into the Open, well, let's say my dream venue, Royal Birkdale, and guess what? I ended up in a playoff with Tommy Fleetwood. Who's going to be the better Tommy Fleetwood, him or me? So I can only ever be me. And so many people in life end up being a pale imitation of somebody else. Yeah. So I always say to the kids, you are absolutely unique. You need to be the best version of yourself. And you've got unique qualities that only you bring to the table. So let's be the best version of you. Yeah, we can look at golfers who do things well and we can copy certain elements of what they do. But I 100% believe in letting people express themselves and their own unique set of talents. And let that come out. Over coaching, it's an absolute catastrophe. Nobody is coached to world stardom. They get bitten by it and they develop a way of repeating something efficient, and it might get fine-tuned. I agree with you 100%. I think golf and snooker have got a lot of similarities. There's quite a lot of thinking time. There's a intense concentration and effort combined with a relaxed flow. So golf and snooker have got a lot of similarities, and snooker players often make good golfers. But one of my key themes in life and a transferable skill: be the best version of you, whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah. No, fantastic. I think that's one of the things that I've noticed, and I think that when you look at the kids that are obviously with you, and we've seen a few more of them at the events, is that there's just there isn't a carbon copy approach. Like the two boys that played with us yesterday, I think it was Louis and Johnny. I think Johnny was one, and I think Louis came third. Isaac was in the same four ball, and I thought what was very interesting, two boys that have come out of that setup but look very, very unique in their own way and their own approach, which was really good to see for that reason, because I think it's almost, if you go too robotic and everybody's the same, you're never going to get the results. There needs to be that individual flair that's coupled with that, with that sort of a methodical approach as well, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I like sort of methodical approach in the things that you can control, the setup, the aim, your practice routines. In terms of how you actually propel the ball and the engine for your golf swing, we're all different. We're all physically different. And world-class golf has been played a number of ways. And if you can't see that as a coach, you're daft. And exactly. If you, in my opinion, if you've got a method that you try to impose on every golfer, then that you're going to lose half of them and you're limiting your audience. Yeah. So I've got my own technical ideas, but I've got several different variations. And if somebody does something slightly unusual that jars with my core beliefs, but it works anyway, I'll leave it alone.
Yeah.
And we move on to other things. If you can repeat it and you can control that club face and deliver it back to the ball looking at the target, and you can get the angle of attack right, you're in business.
Brilliant. Well, I think we've talked about it already, but one of the other things, well, there's two other things that we want to talk about with you, but the first one being, it is the Tommy Fleetwood Tour. As we said earlier, Isaac's played in the first two events. How did that come about, and how would you sort of assess how it's gone so far from your point of view?
Well, it came about just as a natural evolution of the Tommy Fleetwood Academy, where we've got about 120 kids, and we build our coaching program around about 10 tournaments per year. which we run on the par 3 course. And then Tommy asked me what I thought about getting a tour going. So that's why we've done it. It's an extension of what we do for our academy pupils, and it's gone well. I mean, it's a lot of work, and I would say, like, if you put a tournament on with the infrastructure that we're using for 15 kids or 100 kids, there isn't 10 times the extra work. It's all the same. So we have the PGA scoreboard, we've got a PA system, we've got our staggered tee system, age dependent, and we put a lot of effort in. But I'd say it's gone well, you know. And what I want kids to get out of that, no, you haven't asked me, but I'm riffing onto this subject. When I look back at my sort of experiences in competitive golf as a junior golfer, and then as a young pro when I was at my best, I look back and think, was I nervous? Well, I was a little bit, but the overwhelming feeling I had was excitement.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm telling the kids: if you feel them butterflies, and that slight shaking, your mouth's gone dry, you've got to welcome that. That's adrenaline, and that's the fuel for excellent performance. So I encourage our kids to get that sensation, recognize it, and think, this is the fuel I need to propel myself.
All right, excuse me for 1 minute.
Sorry for that slight interlude there. We do have an extra guest. This is Leo. We do tend to record these podcasts quite late at night. So this is why he's joined us. He's a little bit restless. But just to come back onto the Tommy Fleetwood Tour, Norman, one of the things that I think has appeared to work really well is the format, and that it's you talked about the staggered tees. You talked about the fact that obviously the holes are, you know, set distances, like it's very similar to the US Kids Tour. Was there a particular reason that you adapted sort of a similar format in that respect?
Well, I've had my own son on these various tours and the US Kids stuff. And it's born out of our program where kids start very close to the green and they work their way backwards.
Okay.
We do it on the gross score. It's like the best golfer wins. So far, we haven't used golf handicaps. And I've got to admit, it seems to have been quite popular with the parents. Yeah. We could perhaps reach a bigger audience if we had a handicap section as well, which we may go into. But as we roll out the tour next year to bigger venues and perhaps 18-hole venues as well, I might consider it. I'm not ruling it out, but I do like the gross score format. It takes away the handicaps, which are always tricky with kids, because a kid could start on a 36 handicap in the summer, and by the end of the summer holidays, he could be 15 handicap. So they're always fluctuating. They're going up and down, and there's a clarity to it and a simplicity, and everybody can grasp it. So it's not set in stone, but that's the way we've started off. And it's the way I run my tournaments at the Tommy Fleetwood Academy. And I think everybody knows what's going on.
Yeah, because I think one of the things that was noticeable as well is it seems to have attracted a lot of players from different areas as well, which probably shows that you know, how, from a reputation point of view, how well the Tommy Fleetwood Academy is doing. How much would you say has that been in part to to the players that are coming? Is it the players that are coming out? Is it obviously the Tommy Fleetwood name? Is it a combination, sort of all of those things?
Well, I think initially, I've got to be honest, it's probably the Tommy Fleetwood name, but my goal is to deliver the best experience I can, and bearing in mind we're representing Tommy, and Tommy's takes a very close interest in it. We want to deliver the goods, and hopefully people can come along and see, the quality of what we're doing, and they think, I wonder when the next one is. So these were 3 pilot events in effect, and I'm amazed. We've had people from London, people from Inverness, we've had people from Europe enter. The COVID restrictions have slightly dampened that, but there has been a lot of interest. So I'm very, very pleased with it, and I've had nothing but positive feedback and some really nice texts and emails, which I always appreciate, probably like you
Yeah.
in your business, when people tell you, like with Noisy Golf, that you're doing a good job. It's nice. They've actually been so impressed by what you're doing. They've gone out of the way to contact you, and it's very, very nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the things that we wanted to talk about as well, following the tour itself, was I think it would be rude not to talk about Tommy himself. I know Isaac was made up yesterday when he had the chance to see him on FaceTime after the event, which was obviously totally unexpected, even from my point of view, because I know, I'm a fan of Tommy's myself as well. I've been fortunate to see him at a few events when we lived in the Middle East. He is back from the US a little bit earlier than expected. Obviously, didn't make the FedEx Cup playoffs.
Positive.
No, but it just interesting to see. After his success in stateside, where do you feel this sort of leaves him? Obviously, excuse me, we've got the PGA Championship, we've got the Ryder Cup coming up later this year, the race to Dubai. So obviously, there's still a lot to play for. How would you sort of assess his playing situation at the moment?
Well, I would think it's Tommy just struggling for form was kicked off, I think, by his driver just not quite cooperating. So right from being a junior golfer, when I first met him, he loved it in the driver, and he's been one of the best drivers on the European Tour and the PGA Tour, and that's just gone slightly skew with. And I think Tommy knows exactly what it is, and he's wrestling it. So that's made it difficult for him. There were a few alterations to his schedule this year. He didn't play as much as he normally did. We've got the COVID. He's got a young son. I haven't spoke to Tommy in any detail about it. It's entirely his business. There's been a few changes going on, and I think he probably just needs a bit of a breather, get back in Europe, and just re-establish what he wants to do. I think he said on the FaceTime yesterday, didn't he? He was going to meet his dad at Formby. His dad was my partner in the alliance.
Okay.
He's not a brilliant golfer, but he's a very positive thinker.
Yeah.
And with his handicap, I think he's about a 14 handicap. He knows what he's doing. He's hard to beat.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think Tommy will just want to reset, listen to what his dad says, which was what he said to us yesterday.
Yeah.
And just can't think of quite the right phrase. Just recalibrate and then go again.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I don't know whether it's something that you can provide insight. You've obviously played to a high level yourself, but something that we're keen to learn more of is just the sheer intensity of what these guys are expected to do week in, week out. And I think that, there's a perception that there's a lot of glitz and glam, playing in these top tournaments, but fundamentally there comes a time on a player's, their personal life is impacted. They're spending time away from their family. They're traveling from state to state, country to country, sleeping out of hotels. Even though it looks so glamorous on the outside, obviously trying to perform at the highest level all of the time. I think there's often elements where in a player's career where they just need to take that little bit of a back step, sort of reboot, like you say, recalibrate, and then just go again. How would you sort of, over the years with Tommy's career, have there been times where he's been required to do that, or what would you say?
There has, yeah. There was one time he was close to losing his European Tour card, if I remember correctly. And I think he needed to finish like a top 10 finish in South Africa, and his dad went to caddy for him then. And he just did it. He just squeaked through, which could have been a big setback early on.
Yeah.
But, it is a tough life. Don't get me wrong. People are living out of a suitcase. We see the ones right at the top. Yeah. But just a few levels down, there's people just hanging on. So, I always like it if kids want to say they want to be professional golfers. But sometimes, occasionally overexcited dads, I say, you're only seeing the top. It's a tough way of life. And that's what I say to the kids, like we were talking about before. If you don't quite make it or you get distracted by other things on the journey, you're normal. welcome to being
Yeah.
one of us. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it at all. And it's those people who don't get distracted. Tommy was one of those who's got that drive, and people who are exceptional performers, they get up enthusiastic every day. Yeah. And it's a gift, and it can be cultivated, but it's not easy to do. Tommy probably just needs a little bit of a breather and come back again.
Fantastic. So just moving towards the sort of the rest of the year then, we're coming into August now. What does the rest of the year look like for yourself, the Tommy Fleetwood Academy, as we, some ease back into hopefully a post-COVID normality?
Yeah, well, we start our term again in September. So we will be busy. We'll have 120 people. We've got a lot of new interests. Scout being the world champion helps. There's a lot of dads. Don't get this so much from mums, but definitely from dads. They'd like to have a nursing home with a jacuzzi. They think if she can be a world champion at 9, I fancy a bit of that. So we might get an influx of that. So we've got a lot going on, and we've got our tournaments. We have a Christmas tournament. Last year, Tommy was there for that one. So we're building towards that. That's the finale of our season. But I would say my mission and my goal, that's my main drive, to build kids' confidence and self-belief through sport. That's what sport gave me. And it's my job to pay that back, pay that on, and to pay Tommy back for putting his faith in me. And I'm determined every single day to give that my absolute best shot. There are goals, and hopefully a lot of kids are going to gain some benefit from that, like I did out of sport.
Do you know what I've loved about speaking to you, Norman? Your approach, obviously, is it's all about the kids. It's all about making it relevant to them, making it fun for them, and just really giving every unique child that kickstart, that little bit of enthusiasm, that little bit of motivation. All of that has come through from speaking to you, but also from listening to what the Tommy Fleetwood Academy is about as well. Just having Tommy Fleetwood himself pop in and have somebody there who they can relate to and are inspired by, and he doesn't have to be there all of the time. It's the way that you talk about him as well. They could be like Tommy Fleetwood did it like this. All of that has come across as such a very wholesome and homely kind of way to get into golf and to be part of the golf community. Do you agree?
100%. Well, we've experienced it with Isaac. We obviously were there for that session. I know he's loved the event.
I need to go.
Yeah. and as I say, the only frustration from our part is that we don't live a little bit closer towards there, because I know for us, in a heartbeat, Isaac be there 100% of the time. And it's so from that point, echo what Jade said. I think that having experienced it, having heard what you've said in a lot more detail, it's great to share that journey. And again, even with Isaac seeing the video yesterday with the other kids, seeing Tommy, it's almost like he's within reach.
Yeah.
And it's providing that aspirational element so that he's just, he's just another guy, but he's obviously an exceptionally talented guy that's worked hard, dedicated himself. And like you said at the very start of his journey, he could strike a ball well, but there's a lot of other kids that can. So by applying that same, applying that same approach, that same dedication, there's absolutely no reason why this can't be you. Yeah. And to have that within such close reach must be for the kids. I'm obviously not a child, but I can see the impact that it has on the kids that are there, because he's a superstar in their eyes.
Yeah. But I do think you need to give yourself some more credit as well.
Well, he is a superstar, but he's a superstar who comes from about 6 blocks in that direction behind me, from a little house that backed onto Tesco's. He is all of us. He's every child out there, and they can all do it. They've just got to find what it is in life that they're passionate about. Yeah, and I've said it a couple of times on social media in the last few weeks with regard to Scout. Find what you love and pour your heart and soul into it, and good things will happen. And anybody can do it, but you've just got to find what ignites that passion. And we are in the same business. We are like putting the tinder in to the lighting the fire for the passion that exists inside children. And I would say, like Tommy, you know, he's got to the summit of world golf, but he was kind enough and gracious enough, and he's such a nice fella. He's come back and he's lit up the runway for any other child whose golfing dreams might take off. You can give it a go, and anybody can do it. You've just got to give it everything.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's such a nice note just to finish on as well. Even though I feel like we could talk to you for so much longer. If for those of you listening, I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been one of our favourite ones so far. If there are any questions, please comment in the box below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Hopefully one day it'd be great to have Tommy on himself. I don't know what the opportunities there are for that.
I'm happy with Norman. I like Norman.
But if you know, from our point of view, it's great. I know Isaac's absolutely loved the tournaments and the experience of coming to see the academy firsthand. I've loved seeing what you do, and I think as a parent, there's nothing more that thrills me than seeing so many kids enjoy a game that I also love, and be a lot better than me at it as well. You know, so it's great to, you know, with all that's going on in the world, golf is one of those outlets that can just take you away from the, you know, from the troubles, even if you're watching your own child do it. So to see so many kids enjoy that is just wonderful to see. And you know, obviously congratulations on everything that you've done at the academy, and you know, and you know what's coming for the future as well. It's really brilliant to see.
Well, thank you very much. Well, we're on this journey together, and I'll be seeing plenty of you with Noisy Golf and Isaac, who's fantastic hair, and Leo.
He's catching up. He's another lefty as well.
Yeah.
Which
is he? He's reading about golf now, I can tell.
But yeah, so thank you so much, Norman. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've really enjoyed this conversation, and we'll obviously see you at the events coming up soon.
And I hope to meet you soon as well.
And hopefully Jade can come with us as well to meet you in person too.
We'd love that. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Norman.
Thank you.